Now, you had a couple of days off. You're refreshed. You're happy. It was an amazing trip. It was well needed. Does that mean that you are looking at the Mets situation positively?
Nope.
Or you are freaking out because the team stinks and here comes the Phillies and this lead has dwindled to basically you're hanging on by a fingernail and you got the Phillies this weekend and you could be in second place?
Gio, number one, I don't freak out.
You're a freak out. You freak out.
I don't freak out over anything.
Freak out.
I will tell you right now, with the injuries that the Mets have had pitching-wise and with the lack of offense from guys like Michael Conforto, even Javi Baez, gets a golden sombrero last night and 5 strikeouts.
I do love the guy, but last night was the bad side of Javi Baez.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it came at the worst time.
Yep.
And, if you look at it from a negative standpoint, it's like the net negative Mets. Like, this is where we are. But now, here we are. We're a half a game in front of Philadelphia. We got to go into the Phillies. The Phillies have one of the worst bullpens. Maybe we do, too, by the way. One of the worst bullpens in baseball. And if you can't take this series, then you don't deserve to win. And I saw where Rich Hill basically said, talk to me in September and let's see where we are in September. The point being is right now, you're probably somewhere between 15th and 20th in terms of how good your baseball team is compared to everybody else in the league. You're not winning a World Series with this team. Now, if they can stay close and they can keep it close, and DeGrom comes back, and DeGrom is the DeGrom that we know.
And that's a major if.
That's a major.
That's not a when. That's an if.
Like making a trade at the trade deadline.
Well, of course. It'd be like even later than the trade deadline. But that's an if.
I mean, we got
at this point.
Noah Syndergaard is MIA.
Yeah.
He's off somewhere. I don't know what he's doing. He's
on
gone.
Seth Meyers.
We don't know where DeGrom is, and we don't know when he's coming back. They say September. They're trying to piece it together. They also, I thought, and as much as I like Javi Baez's baseball acumen and the way he plays, and that slide the other night was unreal at home plate. It was just, people just don't do that unless you have a real sixth sense about the game, and you can see that he does. But, the interesting thing is when Francisco Lindor does come back, and that's another big piece here missing, and you move Javi Baez to second.
I think he's going to go to third now.
Well, maybe he should go to third, but I don't know if does he really want to go to third. But the point being, let's say the initial thought process is he said, I would love to play with Francisco Lindor, and the only place I would do that would be I would play second base only with Francisco Lindor at shortstop.
Yeah.
What is the collateral damage to Jeff McNeil?
Well, I think that what's going to happen is one of the things that we saw while you were off was that the Mets are seriously considering whenever Lindor comes back, putting Baez at third and keeping McNeil at second base because they trust McNeil more at second than they do at third. And Baez is just here to help and do what he can do.
So you think this is just a short run for Baez, that Baez is not going to stay here?
I do think he's going to stay here. Are you talking about collateral damage for this year or next season?
I mean, I'm talking about it so for the most part, and look, I don't really care about a lot of what goes on behind the scenes. All I care about is what the results are on the field.
Yeah.
And this team, for whatever reason, over the last couple of years, has been really a pretty close team and has liked each other a lot and has kind of played for each other. And I know that Javi Baez is a hell of a baseball player. There's no question about that. But Jeff McNeil's having a hell of a year when he's healthy.
When he's healthy. He's been hurt a lot. It hasn't been a great year for him. It hasn't been a great year for anybody offensively for the Mets.
I just think that he's been a part of this mix. But then there's got to be a point where you decide whether or not this mix of guys is ever going to win.
Well, it's hard to evaluate this year.
Well, no, it's not for me because there's a guy by the name of Michael Conforto who is...
He's going to be gone.
All right. But that's like one of the points. Like he's one of the guys that in that locker room, everybody loves each other. And he's one of those guys that when he's hitting home runs and he's doing what he's doing, making plays from right field, everybody loves it. But the real question that Sandy Alderson and Zach Scott and Steve Cohen have got to ask themselves, is this group of guys good enough to win a world championship? And when you look at teams like Houston, you look at teams like the Dodgers, San Francisco right now, you're like, the Mets aren't even remotely in their class and due a large part to injuries. And
well, that's why I said it's hard to evaluate right now.
Yeah, but the guys that are playing need to be doing more. And guys like Conforto, who's batting under 200.
He's terrible. In a contract year.
He has had a horrific season.
Terrible. Yeah, he can't stay. He can't stay. He's gone. That's the end of that. I don't know where the season ends up for the Mets. I mean, if they end up missing the playoffs, that's even more so the fact that he's gone. They've been in first place
for 90 days starting today, and the only reason they're in first place today is
because the division's been terrible.
Well, the Phillies have one more loss than they do.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They have the same amount of wins. The Phillies have one more loss.
Yeah, half game up on them, and you got them this weekend. And you could be out of first place just like that. Yeah. One more loss to the Philadelphia Phillies tonight means that you are out of first place.
So we had a caller, I don't know, somewhere months ago when the Yankees were scuffling and they looked tired, and before they brought up all the COVID-19 replacements after the All-Star game.
Before the trade deadline, obviously.
Where they also got some energy and all that other stuff from some of those young guys that were trying to cut their teeth here. They were stealing bases and hitting runs and sacrifices and all that other crap. And there was a caller, the Yankees are an 8-2 run away from being right there. And lo and behold, the Yankees are 8-2 in their last 10, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're 5.5 games out of first place in their division.
That is right.
And, maybe there is something to what Rich Hill said about come talk to me in September and let me see where we are. Because we as fans, we tend to overreact to everything in the moment.
Well, it's too much of a roller coaster. It is. The baseball stuff is way too much of a roller coaster. But the Yankees changed their entire team. Brian Cashman went out and got 2 impact players, and both of those guys, especially Rizzo, have been carrying the team. And last night it was Gallo. It was Gallo's turn last night.
Rizzo made a hell of a play at first base.
He did. He was great. Yeah.
And again, Chapman was, walking the tightrope at the end of the game last night. But yeah, they have, Rizzo hit home runs in his first, at bat, in his first game as a Yankee, and then of course Gallo hitting a home run last night, late in the game. It was just. These two guys have obviously.
Well, Gallo's been struggling a little bit, but last night he was great. He had 2 doubles and a game-winning home run. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And he's a good defensive player, too.
What about that lineup, though, when it's healthy?
Of course.
Look at all those left-handed sticks.
Oh, left-handed sticks.
Now we don't have to talk about left-handers anymore.
That's right.
From the Yankee lineup, thank God.
I know. It really is amazing.
I don't know if I can take it anymore.
I know that things can change quickly, and they have changed very quickly, but it still is amazing with the way that the Yankees have played recently and the way that the Mets have played, that the Mets are still in first place and the Yankees are still out of a playoff spot. Now it's getting closer and closer. Mets are only up a half game, and the Yankees are, a game and a half out of a wild card spot. But it really is incredible. Yankees are 10 games over 500 now.
When you look at it, 8-2 in their last 10, and Boston is 3-7 in their last 10, and that's what that caller was talking about. That's what the baseball season is. The baseball season is a season of runs, either good ones or bad ones. And the Mets are in the middle of just an absolutely horrific run, and the Yankees have turned their season around.
They have, and the Mets still, it's not over for them.
No,
and I still don't believe that the NL East is something like, like the Phillies have been held down. Here they come, and they're going to storm back and win the division. I don't feel that way. It's still, the opportunity is still there. But, I mean, if the way that they have played, yesterday, losing 3 out of 4 to the Marlins, watching Rich Hill, who looks like your high school social studies teacher out there, getting smacked around, and just the offensive ineptitude is just, it's so frustrating. A day game like that, too, when it's standalone in the afternoon, and you're like, you got to win this game before you head into the Phillies series, and all of a sudden, you lose again.
And Jerry's Familia comes in and just absolutely, poops the bed.
Right, a little bed pooping.
It's frustrating as a Met fan for 90 days being in first place, and all that can end tonight.
It could, but doesn't mean that it ends tonight and they're out of it. It's just that now they're going to have to really fight back because this has been brutal.
And the other thing that happened when I was away, and I did see some of this, was the New York Giants getting into a big fight at their training camp.
Oh, yeah.
And Daniel Jones getting in the middle of it and all that.
He ended up at the bottom of the pile.
Doesn't Joe Judge remind you of a guy that would go into, Logan Ryan and say, Logan, come on. We got to edge this thing up. We got to edge up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get this thing going. Could you see that?
No, because he seemed really pissed off about it, Joe Judge.
He has to.
No, but he made him run laps and everything else, and that'd be pretty maniacal.
Somebody got the word to get this thing a little bit going. And I like the fact that the Giants, I don't mind fights every now and again. I always would stay away from it, just watch the other idiots swing at each other. But that was back when we actually had two-a-days.
Yeah.
Now it's all fancy pants and walking around.
Fancy pants.
And then, the first day we put on shoulder pads, we're gonna act tougher than the other guy that, was already tough enough or he wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I don't think that Joe Judge said get this thing going.
I don't believe so. Huh?
No, I don't. I think that he's intense enough as it is.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.